Yay!
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Bloom. Tori, we matched today, except my
We
partner.
do.
Yeah, I love that. So hold on, let me turn off my notifications. Hold on one second.
While you're
Um,
doing that, hi friends. We want to welcome you to the Bloom. We're so
Hi,
excited.
everybody. Yeah, I got my notifications off now, so we're good. I am super excited for our chat today. It is heavy on my mind because I just read a book called No Cure for Being Human. Um, I won't get too deep into it because it's definitely like a tearjerker, but it is about this lady was diagnosed with cancer that will never go away, basically. And so they gave her like a few months to live. She's young. And so she started writing a book about just like the finitude of time. And she said that she didn't realize what mattered to her until they put a deadline on her life. And then she was like, "Hey, Lissa, I'm so glad you're here." So they put a deadline on her life because there's basically no way that she could ever recover from it. So yeah, I just finished it last night, and
Mm,
it's it's big. So I'm really, really glad that we're gonna talk about living out your legacy right now.
me too. I'm right there too. And I don't know, today may end up being a tear fest for me. I've been like very emotional. You know this, Kelly, but
I know. Hey,
I'm really
Nicole.
excited. Hi, Nicole. I'm excited about this topic because I feel like it's extremely relevant and it's something that I have been considering even outside of prepping for this episode just because of where we're at in life. So, yeah, you ready to dive in?
I'm ready. Let's just dig into it. I feel like there's no way to make this topic not heavy because I don't
We're
know.
talking about mortality, that life is it's going to end. And what are we going to do about the time? What are we going to do with the time that we have to make an impact on the world that we can touch?
That amen. That we can touch. I think that's
Mhm.
the big kicker. And what the book I was talking about, No Cure for Being Human by Kate Bowler, she said, um, I listened to her. Actually, I struggled with the book a little bit, Tori, because it was so heavy. And I read
Mhm.
the first few chapters and I was like, oh, this is like a lot. This is heavy. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish it because it just made me feel like it. I don't know. It's a heavy topic, one that we don't talk about a lot enough, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But I
I agree.
decided I was going to get to know her as a person, and so I listened to her on a podcast, and it changed the way that I read her words because she was so chipper about everything. Like, she would say, "This is ridiculous," and it was like I could hear that when she was writing those poignant words, they were
Yeah.
said delicately. Um, but she talked about how, and I thought this was really interesting. She talked about how, um, when she was diagnosed, she realized, like, the I don't know who those people are that are going to Greece and have all these bucket list plans, but that's not me. I'm not going to Greece. If I have a limited amount of time, that's off the list. And I thought it was really interesting because I often have these big dream plans or like these
Mhm.
big things that I want to accomplish. But when I was reading her story, I was asking myself, if somebody put a timestamp on my life, what would I take off my list? And it just like kind of rocked me. I ended up finishing the book after that revelation. Um, but I think that's the question we're trying to answer today. How do you live out your legacy, long term, capital L legacy, God's kind of legacy, right now? That's
Mhm.
very hard.
It is. I think here at the beginning we should establish this because I think sometimes when we talk about legacy, people are like, "Ooh," like they
Mhm.
think celebrity or bank account or a will or a trust, and that's not when we talk about legacy at Cultivate what we mean. What we mean by legacy is when you look back at your life at the end, what are you going to have left behind? And that
Mhm.
could be the way that you make people feel, the impact you left on the people who you love the most. um that those are the kinds of things that we mean when you sit down and you look at your power sheets and you say, what did I decide really really matters? What kind of an impact did you make in those areas with your life? And I think that we often will put it aside for so long because we're like, oh, I have so long to do this. I have so long. I was thinking about that with my kids the other night, Kelly. I was like looking back at it's kind of let me get myself together. So there's kind of this when things like that happen, there's kind of this like before the incident and after the incident. And we've we've had a couple of those in our lives. And I was looking back at our life before Matt's diagnosis and like just all the things that we did, and we'd go on picnics, and we'd go pick flowers, and we just, like silly things that really, really do matter.
Yeah.
And I was just so overcome with emotion because those things have almost come to a halt for a little bit because life was heavy and crazy, and so I was thinking last night, wow, I need to pick those back up. Like that when I am looking back through these memories, I don't remember a lot of things, but I remember those moments. I remember how that felt. I remember the giggles and the songs and the dancing in the living room and the picnics and why 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 do we put those things aside is really the question I've been asking myself.
You gotta read this book, Tori.
I
She
don't know if I
she
can right now.
I know, we're an emotional we're I'm emotional with you, like, it's okay, this is emotional, it's okay, this is what's most personal is, like, most universal. Emily Thomas always says that, and
Mhm.
so, um,
True.
you don't have to read it right now, but how about I just tell you what she said? She
Tell
kind
me.
of answers that question, and it gave me so much, um so it feels good when somebody names your pain or when
Mhm.
somebody gives words to what you can't articulate. She said that time is a circle and that we're constantly between the past and like a past that we can never return to and a future that's uncertain. And
Mhm.
in the middle is today. But it is a circle. And so you're constantly and I feel like when she said this, I was like, "Oh, it's okay. It's okay for me to look back on the past and to
Yeah.
want those days back and realize that I can never return to them. But it's also okay for me to look ahead to an uncertain future and to not be sure how that's gonna go because it's a circle, it will come back around to the present." So it's just we're constantly in this circle of time. And I found that to be so freeing because I felt like, okay, I don't really even know why it spoke to me so much. I think because I do kind of live in this like we've talked about these before and after times where like something you got a diagnosis or you had a broken relationship or for me I told you I was engaged and so after like when my wedding came to an end like that was a huge marker in time for me and I can
Mhm.
look back and be like I was happy before and I had this sense of security and then after that happened I was like my world was just turned upside down very suddenly um He's gonna cry. Oh, I'm gonna cry. We're both gonna cry on the bloom
We're
today.
gonna cry. I'm for sure gonna cry today.
We're for sure crying. Sorry, you guys. Thanks for being our friends. Um, yeah, and it's like really hard when you're in that circle to look back on that time before
Yeah.
whatever it was, and realize you can't go back to that innocence. She said, let me see if I can find the quote that she said. I wanna read this quote to you. Hold on.
But
She,
Kelly, how beautiful is it while you're looking for that yeah, we have this before the incident, after the incident, but
yeah,
and we can't ever get that innocence back, but we what we do get is knowledge and a wisdom that we didn't have before because like when I consider life and we're waste results and we don't know what's to come, I think about, okay, well, strip it all back. I know what really matters because life has presented me with this before. And we can say, with this new wisdom, we can make better choices. We can make better choices about our time and what we do with it.
yeah. I think that's really, really, really insightful. I'm sorry I was like looking away when you were
Oh,
talking.
no, you're good.
Um, I just I want you to read this book so badly.
I will. I will read it. I'm very tender right now.
I know yeah, you're waiting on test results, which is it's the waiting. I even read a quote and she said in the very beginning of the quote says, "I have another scan this week," I say lightly, hoping to reassure my that it's safe to rejoin my orbit. She talks a little bit about how people dance around you when you're in these
Oh, yeah.
situations where it's like, I don't know what to say and I don't know how to ask you. And she even says at one point in the book, she says, the people who care about you most uh, care for you the least. Like people that are closest to you tend to like dance around the subject a little bit more because they don't want to break the relationship. They don't know what to say. They feel like you're okay. I just found it really, really interesting. I can't find the quote that I was looking for, but um, oh, here it is. I loved this story. I think it speaks to your point about how can we go back to those days, or how do we schedule our time, or how do we know it matters. Here's what she says. She says, no matter how carefully we schedule our days, master our emotions, and try to wring our best life now from our better selves, which I found like wringing our best life out of today. Like, that just, the visual was so good. She said, we
Mhm.
cannot solve the problem of finitude. We will always want more. We need more. We are carrying the weight of caregiving and addiction, chronic pain, uncertain diagnoses, struggling teenagers and kids with learning disabilities, mental illnesses, and abusive relationships. It never occurred to me that every life must be constantly reinvented by adventures and private jokes, and that it might suddenly end. And she kind of like, to wrap up what she was saying, I don't think it like really finished it well, but she said, um, hang on, I'm trying to look at the quotes, and I'm like really just disheveled about it. But basically, after that, her point was that like in the midst of all of this, you're also carrying the weight of like she said, like addiction, kids with mental illness, like all these things all at once. But that the sad reality is that it's all going to come to an end, and
Mhm.
then when that happens, like you'll miss those bad things,
Yeah.
like
I
the
think
like.
there is that juxtaposition of it's really, really hard, but it's also beautiful because it's life, and we're all kind of in this collective shared life. Like no one is free of pain or suffering or, anxious thoughts. We're all kind of doing it together. And I think when we shift life into that perspective, it makes it a lot, I won't say easier, it makes it more manageable to then kind of tackle what is to come. I think that that is something that often can hold us back from living out a life of legacy right now, is that uh, we kind of self center our life. And this is what I'm going through, and this is what I'm feeling. And we forget that there's so much more to life than just what's happening in our little bubble?
Yeah. I don't wanna, like, go too far down the Enneagram rabbit trail today like we did last week, but I find it really interesting that the Enneagram is all about how we interact with the world. It's
Hmm.
all about other people. Even, like, my beloved 8s that are challenger type personalities who can sometimes rub people the wrong way with their directness, they are being that way because they have a sense of justice and they want goodness for
Yes.
others. Same thing with 7s, like some people don't like the flighty personality, or like that, like that's like their deadly sin or whatever, but they try to bring fun to others. 2s like can sometimes like not always say what they really mean, which can be frustrating for other people, but they don't say what they mean so that they don't hurt others. And I think when we really come back to it, every single person, no matter their personality, like whatever personality measure you want to give them, every single person is others, like needs others, even though sometimes we always
Yeah.
bring it back to ourselves. Um, and I think that's kind of where we're at as a society. Like why legacy is
Oh
so
yeah.
hard for us is that we're so like you said, like self-centric. We're the center of our world.
1,000,000%. We were just talking about this at work this morning in the office about how, like, other cultures, I think a lot about Japanese culture, and they're very village minded. They have very little crime. They
Yeah.
live longer because they take care of each other. And they kind of have, they don't have it all figured out, but they have this better idea of what legacy looks like.
Mhm.
It's caring for others, it's taking care of the things that you've been given, it's, you know, thinking outside of
Yeah.
yourself. And I do, it makes it very difficult to think about a legacy or even what really matters to us sometimes, because we do turn inward so frequently.
So much so. I'm really glad you said
Mhm.
that. I recently read that Denmark has the lowest rate of loneliness of any country in the world
Wow.
because it's abnormal for someone to not be a part of a social group there, like a
Hmm.
book club or like a sports team, like an extramural type thing. Um, I feel like here in the United States, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but Lisa had fun with last week's rabbit trail. We're so glad. I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost to me, it feels abnormal for people to be a part of social clubs to me.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I
feel like you have to really try
try.
for it.
You
Yeah.
have to try. It takes concerted effort. I
Hmm.
remember one of my friends started a book club, and I was like, Yeah, I'll go to your book club, but I like need some clarity. Like, when are we gonna meet and what kinds of I'm like, like it
Mhm.
like but it's cool and it's one of my favorite things to do now. But it is not normal in our society for us to be connected, I guess, which is so sad.
Yeah.
Um, but
But I
I think
think that when we focus, Kelly, on the I know here we go being morbid, but when we focus on the fact that life is going to end,
yeah,
like you said, it reframes what we're spending our days doing. Um, yeah, it just I'm responsible for the
we love it.
Lissa. We love rabbit trails with you, Lissa. So, Kelly, what does living out a legacy right now look like for you? Because I feel like it's going to be very different for everyone.
I think so. I was gonna ask you the same question. I'm really curious about what you're gonna say too, because I know you're in an uncertain time. Okay, I am struggling with something, and I know as a Power Sheets user, this is probably not a popular thing to say, but sometimes goal setting for me can like hinder a laser focus for me. I feel like the people that I know who've gotten to the end of their life and have really made an impact were laser focused on one thing. Like they had their thing that they did, that they left behind in the world. For my grandpa, it was the gospel. He wanted to share the gospel. He shared it everywhere he went. And that's like literally when we were in the receiving line, everybody that came through was like, your grandpa introduced me to Jesus and your grandpa told me about God. And it was just, you could tell that was just his life's purpose was this one thing. And sometimes I feel like I struggle with a little bit of like shiny object syndrome. Like I want
Mhm.
to do multiple things. I want to travel. I want to have strong relationships. I want a clean house. I want, instead of being laser focused about who I am. And I'm working through that this year in my power shifts. I think that like the way that I am trying, I'm not perfect at it, but I'm trying to work on my legacy today is to have a singular question. And I think that my purpose in life is to give hope to others. I think I'm coming to this realization that I really like encouragement and I really like giving hope to other people. So maybe I am a two. Let's go back to that. But when I ask myself that question, like, how can I provide hope in this situation today? I had a friend text me this morning and say she's really struggling. And I was like, okay, Kelly, think like, how can you provide hope? Does she need a Chick-fil-A gift card? Like, does she need you to say something or do something or go visit her? Like, how can I be a beacon of hope in this situation? It's different for every situation, it's different for every person.
Mhm.
But I really think knowing and understanding your purpose on this earth and being
Mm.
laser focused about it informs our goals. It informs how we
Yeah.
respond to people. It informs the decisions that we make. Um, so that's for me, I'm not like I can't say that I'm actively like doing the thing that's making the legacy, but I am trying to get clarity on how I want to like the umbrella that I want to overshadow all my days. Um, so I'm a little bit further like back on the continuum of like actually making progress on something. But I think that for me, that's what I really need is just to outline or just to even be able to give clarity to what my life's calling is.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, what about you, Torian? Your situation is different. Matt's got his scans this week, so we're waiting to hear back about that, and that changes, I'm sure, how you're looking at legacy today,
It
right now.
it does. I think I love what you said about how once you find that thing, you can center everything else in on it. I feel like there are good things that matter that we want to do that maybe aren't a part of our legacy, but they can kind of fit in the gaps. But I think the problem is what we do is we make those things be the blocks and then our legacy goes in the gaps when really it should be the other way around. Like
Ooh,
our legacy should be the blocks and then everything else can go in the
that hit
in-betweens.
that hit my heart.
And thanks.
That hit my heart.
But and so I've been considering lately like where is my focus? It's not in the right place. And I can see that because the way that the legacy that I want to build is like deep meaningful relationships with people. I want to know people. I want when I leave from being with my people that they feel seen and loved and heard and it's so easy to be distracted from that. And I feel like that's where I've kind of been living, and I wanna give myself some grace because we did move across the country and we've been, but I feel like now I need to get that back because, like I was saying, it's so easy to think, "Oh, I've got time." Oh, I can live out my legacy. I've got time, but like we're not promised any amount of time. And I that's a hard reality to sit with that I don't think we sit with enough. But like on the other side of that, the people that we're wanting to impact, they don't have the promise of time either. And so, I think about my kids and like I want to be a part of their lives. I want them to experience joy and safety and fun. And I think, well, like I've got their whole childhood. They're going to be with me for all this time. When one, that's not promised, but two, time has already passed. Like I was looking at all these videos of like it feels like it was just yesterday, and
Wow, that's so interesting because back to
I
being
just want to
self-centered.
recenter. Yeah.
But back to being self-centered, we think we don't have time. Our time is
Hmm.
limited. But you're saying they don't have time. Like you don't have time with them. That's
Right.
really profound. The people that you want to influence also are on a time
We're
schedule.
all on a timeline. And I think that when we start to be more realistic about that, is when it becomes more pivotal to live out our legacy right now. Like we can't keep giving ourselves an out because there isn't one.
Yeah, man, that is huge. So how do you let's like bring it back. How do you actually make the change that you need to make in order to make those big blocks to your legacy and fill in with everything else? Like, what is this strategy that you can use?
I think it comes back to a lot of what you were saying of like what is the thing. We talked about this at the very beginning when we first started recording the bloom, but like when I die, what is the thing that I want people to have remembered about me? I don't want people to remember that I was strong or that I was a good housekeeper. Like, those things
Yeah.
matter. They do matter. But like, what are the things that when you die, you want people to say, like, oh, I remember this about
Mhm.
such and such. And so I think that once you figure that out, then everything you do has to point to that. And even your motivators behind what you do, like
Yeah.
maybe, we keep talking about clean house, so I'll use that as an example, but maybe you clean your house so you can bring people in and they feel at peace. But and it just gives it more purpose. And I think then in those moments where you're like, oh, I don't really want to, it gives you that driving force to actually do it because it means something. Like that it's going to make a lasting impact. What do
Yeah.
you think?
I think that's super powerful. I think it's what you said. I think it's that almost like having like a cognizance about your legacy. Because Tori, like we talk about this a lot, like and this is I'm gonna go back to that. This is where people get swirly about legacy. When we say like, how do I want to be remembered? People are like really, really like, you know, people that have like been working through the process, they're like, but I don't want to make it about me. I don't
Mhm.
want they kind of naturally go like, well, that's selfish because you're thinking about how people are gonna remember you. But the point of that question that you're asking yourself is not like to elevate yourself,
Yeah.
but it's to be remembered as a person who elevated others. Like, I remember
Or
that my mom created these experiences for me, or I remember that my mom cared a lot about like, one thing that I love about my mom, speaking on the laundry thing, she cared a lot about our physical appearance, and when I was a teenager, I thought she was being critical of me. Like, she wanted us to have nice clothes and to look like, dress for our body type and for our coloring. She's very particular about what we wore. I remember as a teenager, I was like, I wanted to be grunge. I wanted to wear holes in my clothes and kid with,
right.
um, I was like a kid in the early 2000s, right? So, like, I wanted to have, like, the crop top like Christina
That was
Aguilera.
very in. Yes.
Oh, yeah. My mom was like, "No, you're not wearing crop tops," whatever. Um, but now that I look back, I can see that my mom's legacy in my life was that she wanted me to care about my appearance, and she taught me to be conscientious about my body and, like, what I should be wearing. Um, that's, like, her legacy that she left behind in me is that mattered to her. And so I think being conscientious of what you want your legacy to be is probably the first step to living out your legacy today. I honestly think, Tori, I think that many, 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 many of us can't articulate what on earth we're here for. And I hate to say
Yeah.
that. But we can say it like, I want to be a good mom. But narrowing that down into actionable steps, like what does a good mom look like to you?
Mhm.
You know?
The 5
Yes.
units.
Now I will not wear a crop top.
Yeah,
I think that's really
Kelly,
important. I think that's how you do it. That is how you
I
live.
I agree, and I think too when considering, what do I want if you're thinking about this question of what do I want to be remembered by, I think it's more of like, how do I want people to what do I want people to remember about how I made them feel or how I was able to serve them? And I think in that vein, it's more of it right now. How do I want to be used in this life? And I think used often has a really negative term, but like, isn't that kind of our mission is to be a
Yeah.
vessel of, like you said, hope and joy and love for the people around us. And in that way, it's not really about you at all. It's just you're the tool. What kind of tool do I want to be?
Yeah, 100%, Tori, 100%. I think that as Christians, I have a whole nother, like, I wish I could write a book on
You can.
Christian culture. No, I'm not gonna write a book. Casey told me that this morning. She's like, "You should write a book." I was like, "Absolutely not. I'm
Why?
not writing a book." I just don't wanna be the kind of person that's written a book. I have a lot of authors in my family, and
I love
I
that
don't
you like, nope.
not gonna write a book. I don't know. I don't know. Some of the authors in my family, I'm glad they wrote books. But anyway, not writing a book. But I wish that I could analyze a little bit of the. This is getting off way on a tangent. I know we're at 2 o'clock, so I'm gonna like clip this off. But the Christian culture of like laundry can be your legacy. Like worship. I read that. I read that. Joanna Gaines built a table in her laundry room so she could pray while she was washing her clothes. So she prays like over the clothes and she prays in her laundry room. That's like her space to pray and to bring the Holy Spirit into her home through laundry. And I felt like, yes, like that is, you don't have to be, you don't have to have seminary degrees. You don't have to have this like, philo facts of like all the scripture verses and all these kinds of things. Like you can be a mom that brings the Holy Spirit into your home through laundry. Like, you just have to know that that is how you wanna be remembered and how you wanna be seen. I think I'm getting off on a tangent. I don't remember your initial question,
I just
but
want you to tell me
sorry.
what what
I'm sorry
you
that I
did.
forgot your initial question. Did I
No,
answer
you
it?
did. Yeah.
Okay. I started thinking about Joanna Gaines and, like, the laundry thing because I feel like a lot of times we feel like our legacy has to be just something
No.
outrageous.
And this is the conclusion I came to. I love that you brought this background because after all of this like thinking and crying and meditating on like where do I go from here? This is the conclusion that I came to. And it's that legacy happens in the smallest of moments in your day. Like those moments are the things that are going to leave an impression. Those are the things that are going to really really matter. And so like the loving people, like, that just happens in the very mundane, everyday part of your life.
Yeah.
You go to work and you have an opportunity to interact with people. You put down your phone and you
Yeah.
decide to just be in the moment, like, that's creating legacy. You cook a meal for someone, that's creating legacy. It can be, but it doesn't have to be a TED Talk or a president or, I accomplished this award. Really, legacy is built in those tiny, tiny, simple moments every day.
I muted myself because the mailman is late today. If you notice, 1:30 came and went, no barking, but it's 2 o'clock now, so the mailman, can you hear it?
Yeah.
I appreciate Nicole reminded me of my point, the whole thing about the church and writing a book. Yeah, I agree with you. We got lost in the how he makes something that is not intended to be. I totally agree with you. Um,
Mhm.
but I agree, Tori, I think that I don't know, I think that those little mundane things, they just don't feel like enough. And that's what back
Mhm.
to the book, that's what I got from the book. She basically said, it's never, ever, ever going to be enough. And there's freedom in knowing that, like, you cannot possibly cook enough meals to make you feel like you have changed the world. You cannot possibly run enough miles to make yourself feel like you are an Olympian. You cannot ever, ever, like, you you can't ever have enough. It's never going to be enough. There's not never enough time, never enough service, never ever ever enough. And we can get that can trip us up because we sometimes feel like if it's not going to be enough, I'm not going to do it. But what you just said was a good reminder that, like, it's in those little everyday things, which aren't enough all on their own, that that legacy is built and that love is instilled in the lives of others, which is legacy.
Yes.
Really glad you brought that up. And Nicole, I agree with you. I think we're gonna go back to the church talk. But that's probably another podcast. um,
Yeah, and that was it. I
There's
was
the rough
looking
dog.
back at the pictures, and the pictures I was looking at were not us going to the zoo or taking a trip to Disney, or like, I love those things, but the pictures, the videos that really got me were like us sitting on the floor playing tickle, or like, and I so to wrap up my thoughts, Shelby, one of the writers that we work with, wrote this. I don't know if you saw her Instagram status, but she said, I'm gonna get choked up. Her husband was last night for Valentine's Day. He was like, "I'm sorry, today wasn't more special." And she was like, "What's more special than raising 4 kids with the person that I love and just doing life together?" Like, there is nothing more special than that, than just doing life with other people. And it was, oh man, it really got me, because we do, like you said, it never feels like enough, but like, what if just loving, like truly loving people is our legacy?
Tori, I'm gonna cry about that now.
I know, it was so, you'll have to go read it.
I
It
will.
was because I did definitely did not quote her well, and it was like very beautifully written, but that was the point of it, was like, this is the most special. Like, just the everyday life of being with the people that you love is the most special thing.
There's something here, Tori. There's something I think so many people in my life are converging onto the same topic. Like, turn off the noise, shut out the world in a sense, and,
Mhm.
like, figure out what is enough today. It's
Yeah.
almost like that daily bread mentality, because
Mhm.
that's what I mean, that's the prayer. Give us just enough for what we need today. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Alyssa, for sure. Everyday Rachel. I think that's really sweet, and that's I'm gonna go read her status. I think
Yeah.
I don't know, I recently this is we gotta wrap up here, Tori. We could
I know.
talk for
Yeah.
hours. I read a
Especially on this
study.
topic. We'll have to do like a part 2.
Parts, yeah. I read a study that said that social media is people are just dumping social media. People
Mhm.
are trying to put their phones down, and the social media accounts that are growing are the ones where people are, like, messy. The
Yeah.
the human mind is now it used to be aesthetic, everything had to be matchy matchy, filters, presets, all that kind of stuff. But the our brains, after the whole pandemic and all that, have like, literally, like, the wiring of our brains has changed to desire messy.
Well,
Like,
and
what?
Kelly, well, I could talk about the science behind that forever, but I
Another
think
podcast.
I think a part of it is we want to be seen. Like, that is one of the
Yeah.
deepest human desires, is we want to be seen, and we want our feelings, like you said, to be named. And so
Mhm.
when we see someone else living a life that looks like ours, and it's someone that we admire usually, we're like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
I'm seen. Yeah.
we got this." It's
And that's so
such a
true.
refreshing feeling.
I think that's so true. I think, like, to wrap this up, the things that you can do, all summarizing this, the first thing I think really is just get honest with yourself about what your legacy, what is it? What is your calling here on earth? And when you figure that out, you can realize too how to do more of it. Once you've narrowed down, like, your purpose on earth, and that's also something that only God can tell you, to figure that out. We can't tell you that. We can help you. Power sheets are helpful, but, we, need to get that right, or at least be conscious of it. Figure it out so you can do more of it, and then the third thing I wanna, like, piggyback off what you said is to do it messy. Just be willing to be messy, be vulnerable, show yourself to other people, the real version of you, and be okay with that not ever being enough, but it's something in the moment.
Mhm.
Um, it's kind of vague, but I feel like those are the things that you have to just know who you are, and what your purpose is, figure out how to do more of it, and be willing to do it imperfectly. And that
Mm.
is how your legacy will be built, a little
Progress
bit
over
at a time.
perfection.
Amen. Amen. Tori, this heavy topic uplifted me today.
Same. I think that we've got to start having, not us, but like the world, having these conversations about difficult things, because again, it's a breath of fresh air. Everybody's feeling it, everybody's thinking it. So why does it have to be taboo? Let's just talk about it.
I love that. I wish I had a vein into people where I could say, like, what are you really feeling? What are you really struggling with? I don't, this is a whole other podcast story, but I don't like the facade. I think you and I are both really similar in this way. We don't like the facade of neatness where we're
Hmm.
like, everything's fine, you know, when it's not fine. You and I both have a really hard time being fine when it's not fine.
Let's be
uh,
unfine together.
let's be unfine together. But I wish I could figure out why other people are unfine and meet them where they are and talk to them about that. If you guys are brave, tell me how you're unfine. Um, let's see how many times Kelly mentions wrapping things up without actually wrapping things up. Listen, there is a reason why I thought you were an eighth. um, no, I want to read through these comments. I love the live comments. We need to be careful what we're
I
doing.
do
God has
too.
called us to do, and not all the good things that could be or should be done. Saying no for a better yes, Jacqueline. Yes, I love that.
Mhm.
Um, hello from Cuba. Hello.
Yeah,
Uh,
Jacqueline, I'll have to tell you a story about like how God wildly uprooted a thought that was in my head of something that I was supposed to be doing that he had not told me I should be doing, because it was a very good thing, but it wasn't a good thing for me. It was for someone
do you want
else.
to tell it today or do you want to tell it next week?
I'll tell it next week.
Okay. Put it
Tune
on the
in.
list. Tune in. Tori's going to talk about her life.
Yeah.
Um, I love that you said that, Jacqueline. You said if something should be done, it doesn't mean it has to be you that does it. It should be done by the person that God calls to do it. If that's me, then I better step up. But if not, I better pass. I love that. That's really profound. I'm going to think about that. Okay, Tori, we've kept everybody long enough. I love this conversation. Let's continue this next week. I think this is like something worth digging into. And I'm really appreciative of you, and I'm appreciative of your willingness to be open and to chat about the real thing. I love being unfine with you.
Same, friend. I'll do it any day.
Yeah, me too. We will see you guys next week. Thank you all so much for tuning in live. You can always leave a comment if you're watching the replay. We do try to answer our comments, so we'd love to hear from you. Thanks, Tori. I will see you very soon.
Okay. Bye,
Bye,
friends.
everyone. Bye.